4 Blue Jays pitchers whose roster spots are suddenly in serious trouble, and most fans aren't even talking about this yet. Max Scherzer is back. 3-time Cy Young winner, future Hall of Famer, one of the most competitive pitchers to ever take the mound. The Toronto Blue Jays brought him back on a 1-year deal worth $3 million plus incentives. And look, on the surface, that sounds like great news. And it is great news for the fans, for the organization, for anyone who wants to watch elite pitching. But here's the thing, nobody wants to say out loud, somebody has to lose their spot. This rotation was already crowded before Scherzer signed. Now it's a full-on traffic jam, and there are 4 guys specifically who should be checking their rearview mirror right now because Mad Max just pulled up fast. Let's start with what we know for certain. Kevin Gausman, Dylan Cease, and a healthy Shane Bieber. Those 3 are locked in. That's non-negotiable. Those spots aren't up for debate, which means when you do the math, you've got 2 rotation spots left, and you've got Scherzer plus at least 4 other arms all competing for them. That is a problem. That is a real, genuine problem for some guys whose careers and livelihoods depend on being in that starting 5. So let's go through them one by one, because this deserves a real conversation. Eric Lauer is the first name that comes to mind, and honestly, he might be the one in the most uncomfortable position of all 4. Last season, Lauer stepped up in a big way when Scherzer went down. He filled that rotation spot. He handled the responsibility. He showed this team that he belonged. And then Scherzer came back. And just like that, Lauer was out of the rotation and into the bullpen. That's the harsh reality of how this works. Now think about what happened when Lauer moved to relief last year. He went 3-0 with a 1.76 ERA and a 0.75 WHIP in 13 appearances. Those are elite numbers, genuinely elite. So there's a case to be made that Lauer could be one of the best relievers on this entire staff. But here's the problem. Lauer is 30 years old. He's a starting pitcher, and he has made it known that he wants to start. So now you have a lefty with legitimate starting ability who keeps getting pushed to the bullpen every time this organization adds another veteran arm. At what point does that become a trade situation? Because it's getting very close to that point right now, with Scherzer back in the building. José Berríos is next, and man, what a difference a year makes. This is the same guy who was the Toronto Blue Jays opening day starter in 2025. He walked out of that tunnel as the ace of this staff, the guy they trusted with the baseball on the most important day of the regular season. Fast forward 12 months, and he is now legitimately fighting for a back-end rotation spot. That's not a knock on Berríos as a person, but it's an honest assessment of where things stand. He had struggles late in the season last year, got moved to the bullpen down the stretch, and from what's been reported, that transition didn't exactly go smoothly between him and the organization. Both sides say they've moved past it. We'll see. He still finished 9-5 with a 4.70 ERA and a 1.30 WHIP overall across 31 games, so it's not like the wheels completely fell off. But Scherzer being here changes the calculus entirely. Berríos now has to come into spring training and prove he's back to being the pitcher he was before the struggles hit. If he can't do that, he becomes trade bait, because this team cannot carry a guy with that contract eating up space if he isn't contributing in a meaningful rotation role. Now Cody Ponce. This one is genuinely wild when you think about it. The Blue Jays invested over $30 million to bring this man back from the KBO. $30 million, and the numbers he put up over there were absolutely ridiculous. 17-1, 1.89 ERA, 0.94 WHIP, 252 strikeouts in 180 innings. He looked dominant in his spring debut too, came out and threw a scoreless inning with 2 strikeouts against Detroit, so there's reason for optimism. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The KBO is not the MLB, and until Ponce goes out there and sustains that success over a full major league season, there are going to be questions. The moment he hits a rough patch, and almost every pitcher hits a rough patch, Scherzer is right there, ready, with a resume that speaks for itself. Putting a 41-year-old 3-time Cy Young winner in the bullpen to protect a $30 million investment in a guy still proving himself in North America again? That's not how this front office operates. And then there's Trey Yesavage, The rookie, the guy who gave everybody chills during the playoffs last season and made the entire baseball world take notice. Look, the Blue Jays want Yesavage to develop. They want him to become the frontline starter that his talent suggests he can be. Nobody is questioning that. But he only threw 139 innings total last season. That was his career high. This organization is going to protect his arm, they're going to manage his workload carefully, and with Scherzer back, they have the luxury of doing exactly that. What that might mean in practice is a situation similar to what Toronto did with Aaron Sanchez back in 2015, where they used him as a high-leverage reliever rather than stretching him out as a starter. Is that ideal for Yesavage's development? Probably not in the long run. But does it make sense for a team trying to win right now with a crowded rotation? Absolutely, it does. Here's the bottom line. Max Scherzer didn't come back to Toronto to sit in a bullpen. He didn't sign a deal and go through a rehab assignment to be somebody's long man. He's coming back to start, and this organization clearly believes he can still do that at a high level. Which means Lauer, Berríos, Ponce, and Yesavage are all going to have to make their case this spring in a way that is suddenly a lot more urgent than it was 2 weeks ago. Spring training just became must-watch television for Blue Jays fans because real jobs and real futures are on the line here. And Mad Max doesn't care about your feelings when it comes to competing for a rotation spot. That much has always been true.